We'll start our conversation about Turkey with His Excellency Selcuk Unal. He is Turkey's new ambassador to Canada. He arrived in Ottawa last September. The last position he held before coming to Canada was as a special advisor to the Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu, who has since become Turkey's Prime Minister. And with that, we welcome Selcuk Unal to the agenda. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
You and I met briefly in Ottawa a few weeks ago.
Exactly. I'm glad to be here.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
When you found out it was going to be Canada, what did you think?
I was very happy. The first feeling was that. Secondly, I just thought it's a good coincidence, even though it has no direct link or indirect link with my posting, but my family lived here in Canada, in Vancouver.
Your parents lived in Vancouver?
Yes,
for a little while.
In 1967 and 69. Mom was a doctor in Shaw's Hospital in Vancouver, and father was an agriculture engineer, but I was not born here.
Did they tell you any stories about life in Canada?
Oh yes, even though I was not born here, I was born and raised with the good memories of Vancouver and Canada. Of course, they always, told about the good memories, good friends, Canadian, Turkish, or other nations.
So did you form any opinions about Canada on the basis of what they told you?
It was all positive.
It can't all be positive.
It is all positive.
Okay. You have been sent to a country that differs with Turkey on two files in particular. One is historic, considering the events in Armenia of 100 years ago, 1.5 million Armenians killed. And another is Israel, on which your government and the government of Canada differ. What is your role as the Turkish ambassador as it relates to those two issues?
Well, to explain our position, basically, in both issues, especially in the first one, we may have different opinions or differences of opinions, but I believe it's normal among friends, between allies. You may not see eye to eye in every topic, but it's tourism to continue the dialogue and to explain your version of the incident or issues. And among other things, of course, this is every ambassador is expected to do, and I'm doing that as well.
How do you stay good friends with Canada when Canada calls the events of 100 years ago a genocide, and when Canada probably is the most pro-Netanyahu friend in the world?
Well, on the first topic, of course, as I said, we don't share the same views. From Turkish perspective, as you might know, we don't disagree that so many bad things happened in that period. But we also believe that we can, with Armenia, continue with so many good grounds. That's what we have done, what we have tried to do in the past, and that's what we are explaining to Canada. This issue, from time to time is irking the bilateral relationship. But I think both countries have an interest to carry on with the positive agenda of the relations. Of course, speaking of their mind in the issues that they believe.
You're very upset with the Pope these days.
It seems so.
Yes, it does.
It does, yes.
Pope Francis used the word genocide to describe the events of 100 years ago, and your president responded by saying the following: "Whenever politicians, religious functionaries assume the duties of historians, then delirium comes out, not fact. Hereby, I want to repeat our call to establish a joint commission of historians and stress we are ready to open our archives. I want to warn the Pope not to repeat this mistake." Do you think the Pope made a mistake?
We believe so, because there's a couple of issues from different perspectives. The first one is, as I explained our view, that doesn't fit that view with you. Rightly so, maybe. But there was also a distinction, negative distinction. It was not referring, for example, to the Holocaust. From our perspective, it was also another deficient issue, because we as Turkey, we believe that the Holocaust was a unique and unprecedented incident happened in those terrible times. And we Turks and the Turkey of then has helped to try, everyone trying to escape from the Holocaust. That's why our approach to the matter is different. So that's a deficiency issue. The second one is, of course, we believe historians should first work, not the politicians, on this issue. We don't disagree, we don't object to the calamities which have been lived, but we believe it was a time of war within a war, and everybody, including the Armenians, suffered. We are just objecting to the singling out of the suffering of one side in the first war.
No, I understand that, but what prevents, what do you think is preventing a group of historians from coming together, as your president suggested, to open the archives and study it?
I don't know, because we are for that, and we have signed protocols with Armenia in 2009 to that effect, with the witnessing of the foreign ministers from US, Russia, Switzerland, France, who had archives on these issues. But then it just, I think, didn't work, because the Constitutional Court of Armenia, just after signing these protocols, said to the Armenian government that they are not bound by the, what has been signed. And just last month, the Armenian government presently withdrew it from its parliament. So from that perspective, I believe it's not on the table. That's why we were also more than puzzled and frustrated, because our vision with the relations with Armenia is always a win-win vision, so that we can have a, prosperous region in the Caucasus.
Let me ask you about something that took place earlier this year. All the ambassadors were recalled to Ankara, you two, I guess, right, yes, to have a conversation with President Erdogan. We would like to be in that room. What was his message for you?
It was a public meeting, and in the public meeting, our president, like in other publicized meetings with the political leaders or other officials, it was drawn a general perspective of Turkish foreign policy. Where do we stand, what do we want, and where do we go from here?
One of the things he did say was there is no freer press, either in Europe or anywhere in the world, than in Turkey. But I must tell you, this is not the impression one gets when reading international newspapers, because we find out from the Turkish Association of Journalists that as of March, there are 21 journalists who are in Turkish prisons. What gets you arrested as a journalist in Turkey?
I don't agree with that version of the story, but let me explain that most of the people who are, put in jail, let's say, they were not, and they are not in jail because of their journalistic activities. Some of them have been, interfering with some kind of terroristic activities, including some kind of armed or other things, sometimes forgery and sometimes other illegal activities which are not related with the freedom of expression or journalistic activities.
You're convinced there's none of that going on here? None of these 21 has been targeted just for doing journalism?
No, and the ones who are in jail, they're not. The ones of whom their issues are in the court, of course, they are in front of the courts.
Let's talk a little politics right now. I gather there are efforts afoot to change your political system in Turkey from a parliamentary to a presidential system. What is what's the reason for doing that?
There's a great debate, of course, going on that. And last year we have had a referendum, which, including the presidential election system, approved by 52% of the people other humanitarian or human rights reforms. Of course, the most important one was the election of the president for the first time by the people. That is, I think, something very much debated in everywhere, but there is also a strong tendency to look at the matter from a presidential perspective. There are so many democracies having a presidential system, and this is also debated. But when you elect a president with a popular vote, of course, it gives you also powers. But presidential executive powers have been existing since 1980. That is maybe not very much known in general public, international public, because the increased executive powers have been, most of them have been already there.
Ambassador, let me ask you about your neighbors. Bulgaria, Greece, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Armenia, Georgia. You all share a border.
Romania and Ukraine from the sea.
Oh, and okay, that too, fair enough. How many of those countries do you think you are friends with?
We, in principle, would like to be a friend with all.
I know you want to be,
yes,
but how many
yes.
are you?
If you go from the clockwise, I think we are in very good terms with Ukraine. We are having a long, sustainable relationship with Russia. We have a good neighborhood relationship with Iran. Likewise, we are in the process of, for a long time, and in very good relations with Iraq. Syria, I think Syria is the main problem, and they are not friends of anyone except themselves. On Greece, I think in the last decade we have covered a great ground from an old animosity time towards a peaceful future together. Likewise, Bulgaria, and we have been in very good relations, not only with Bulgaria and also Romania as well, who joined the EU. I think the main issue here is Syria.
Well, let's follow up on that.
Sure.
You sort of have a new neighbor as well in ISIS, which has parts of Syria. What's the official Turkish position on ISIS?
Well, first of all, we saw them as a national threat to us. It's a terrorist organization. We have announced them as a terror organization actually way before some European countries did in our books. And we are trying our best to combat them because, as you rightly said, they are in just, you know, at the neighborhood and doing very bad things that we all follow very in a concerned manner. So that's why we are taking part in the coalition as well.
Your troops crossed into Syria not too long ago in order to take on ISIS? And
they did. There were actually a couple of incidents in the past, there sort of exchange of, you know, fires or whatsoever. But the reason that why we have gone into Syria was, as you know, to take out a place which is very dear to us, which is the Turkish territory. We just, you know, because it was encircled by the ISIL terrorists and militants, we just were compelled to make this operation.
It worked, didn't it? You went in, you got it?
It did. Only one soldier, unfortunately, died through a tragic accident, traffic accident.
I want to ask you about Iraq now, because I'm not making any predictions here, but it is possible that Iraq could splinter into 3 different states, a Sunni state, a Shia state, and a Kurdish one. What would Turkey's view be if that were to happen?
Well, first of all, we are, like other responsible members of the international community, are trying our best not this scenario to happen. Because it will add up to other issues of conflict and instability in the region. That's why we believe, first of all, there should be a government who is at peace with its all peoples, including Kurds, Shia, Sunni, Turkmen, Yazidi, which we have now at the moment. And the second one is a loose federation that could long live in Iraq and be an example of, you know, prosperity to all.
Why would it be a bad thing if Iraq were to splinter and the Kurds were to have their own state?
Well, the thing is, we just don't need more instabilities in the region. It's not we are against this or that. It's we have so many unstable countries in the region, in the Middle East.
But if those 3 countries, who are very much killing each other right now, had their own states, maybe there'd be more security.
There's no guarantee of that. I mean, that a school of thought, you know, goes like yours, but like the question that you posed. But the belief that we have is just, you know, they don't stop to continue this fight among the groups, and the loose but central authority would be always more, I think, beneficial for the peoples of Iraq.
I think we have to be a little more blunt than this, though. I mean, what percentage of your population in Turkey is Kurdish? Is it almost 20%?
Well, it depends who you or how you describe yourself.
Okay.
Let's say, Kurdish terror or Kurdish militants or militancy of people, they say that it's 20%. But if I refer back to the books as we say it, for example, the first presidential elections done by the people, there was for the first time, of course, a Kurdish candidate from Turkey, and he rallied peacefully in every part of the country, and he almost got 10%. So,
well, let's say, well, if it's somewhere between 10 and 20, for argument's sake, doesn't really matter. Is it fair to say that Turkey is concerned that if the Kurds got their own state, that that part of the population might be considered a fifth column inside Turkey, and you would be concerned about them?
That's subject to change, and that's subject to discussion, I guess, because we in Turkey, we are aspirant to become an EU member, hope sooner than later. And I don't think that the Kurdish origin people, citizens of Turkey, would opt for that because when they have a democracy, a sustainable economy, and prospering economy like Turkey's, whether they would choose to break up or something else, I think it's speculation, or it could be speculation. But it's truism to say that, of course, we have had our terror organization, which now there's a process going on that field as well.
When you mentioned the EU, you said hopefully sooner than later. So that still is Turkey's position, eh?
It is indeed.
You still want in.
It is indeed. If you go to the streets of Turkey and make a survey, and the last survey shows 87% of the Turkish people, the man on the street, still wants to join the EU.
And you're not put off by the fact that lots of people in the EU today don't necessarily want you?
The second question is whether they believe Turkey will be a full member one day. It drops to almost 30%. It's a drastic, fall, just because of the reason that you described. So that's why we have finished and fulfilled the, economic criteria, political criteria. There is one issue, perhaps, of Cyprus. That's why we don't want to believe that it's a matter of cultural choice or not. Mm-hmm. And we just say to all the European countries that at the end of the day, it's subject to referendums in every and each country.
What do you think of what Russia is doing in eastern Ukraine?
Well, we are publicly condemning it, and as you might know, we have been traditionally very good relations with Ukraine. We do not recognize what Russia has done in Crimea. We do not recognize the annexation of Crimea. Likewise, we also are opposed to any kind of instability activities in Ukraine. That's why we are trying our best to assist our Ukrainian friends who are our strategic allies in bilateral and multilateral fora.
My hunch is if you asked a Canadian, who's our closest friend in the world, they would say the United States. That's my hunch. If I asked a Turkish person that, what would the answer be? Who's your closest ally in the world?
Well, I mean, we really believe that the adjacent countries, neighboring countries, at least except Syria, some of them, most of them, are good friends. Because of the, mobility of Turkish people and flourishing Turkish economy, now Turkish people are traveling to many countries. They look at to many European countries as friendly countries after neighboring countries. U.S. is also, nowadays also very, seen as a friendly country. So I don't have a one or two answer, but one, of course, country that we are very close with is Azerbaijan because of the, ethnic link, and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus because of the, ethnic link as well.
I'm not suggesting you should have said Canada, but our countries are not as close as they might be. I think that's fair to say. I note that from a few years ago, Turkey was Canada's 34th largest trading partner. Not very high up the list. Is there reason to think that things might improve on that front?
I believe so, and that's like my predecessors I am also tasked for. Of course, it takes tango, but we are of the opinion to move forward with the positive agenda of the relationship. It's true to say that $2.5 billion US dollars trade is not enough. If you ask me, if you think that almost two countries which are not affected by the economic crisis in the world, Turkey and Canada, I mean, we could have done more. It's just your daily trade with the US. Or look at India, which is their present coming here. It's just $6 billion US dollars annual trade volume. So that's why, as two trading nations, we believe we could work more on that. And actually, we have improving signs for that too.
Last poll I saw was a couple of years ago, admittedly, BBC World Service poll. 43% of Turks view Canada's influence positively, only 34% expressing a negative view. So that's not bad, but what do you think could make it better?
More trade, more cultural and human mobility, more cultural relations, and more understanding on different issues, as you rightly described at the beginning. Because, for example, Turkish Airlines is flying to different cities. They want to fly more. They want to expand. More than 200,000 Canadian tourists are visiting our country. Even though they are a small minority among the 41 million tourists visiting Turkey annually, it could be, improved and increased. These kind of cultural exchanges would benefit to both sides of the relations.
Understood. Ambassador Unal, it's very good of you to visit us at TVO tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.